We're at our secret garage where we'll be testing the 2016 Audi A3. I think this is a nice looking car, but a lot of that credit can go to the bright red paint. German cars always look better in red for some reason. Looks rather nice from the rear too. Most YouTube car testers only drive their vehicles during daylight hours. We do it at night so we can evaluate the headlight performance. And we'll move to that right now. It's dark enough, so let's take these headlights out and see how they perform. Here we have the headlights on a wall 100 feet away with low beam. A strong light, but it cuts off way too soon, touching the ground. Here we have the high beams. No complaints here. Here we have the high beams on a building 300 feet away. Brilliant light. No issues here, but as you can see, the low beams cut off around 70 feet. Okay, for city driving at low speeds on backcountry roads, I think we're going to have an issue with this, especially entering dips. In real-world driving, I have the brights on. You can see everything's lit up quite well, but I'm putting the low beams on this dip, and I'm being cut off after about 30 feet. And everything beyond that's disappeared. Here's another example. I can see signs like about 400 yards away on high beam. But again, you put the low beams on, anything beyond 30 or 40 feet's disappeared. So you're driving on back roads, you got to keep the brights on. Otherwise, you might hit something you don't want to. Especially if you're driving where there's a lot of wildlife. You don't want a 700-pound deer going through your windshield. See, here's what I don't understand. Japanese and American cars are made to go 75 miles per hour. And they give us headlights designed for 75 miles per hour. German cars are designed to go on the Autobahn at 150 miles per hour, and they give us low beams that are barely good for 30 miles per hour. One of those weird German car quirks. I don't know how to explain it. This headlight design is not a deal killer. I just keep my brights on more often than I normally would, that's all. Enough about the headlights. Let's look at the engine under the hood, and there are two choices. A 1.8 liter, putting out 170 horsepower. That's what you get when you order a front-wheel drive, which is also listed as a two-wheel drive. If you want a stronger engine, there's a 2-liter turbo, putting out 220 horsepower. That's connected to an all-wheel drive system. If you live in a climate where there are a lot of wet roads from rain or snow, all-wheel drive comes in handy for best traction, but if you live in a dry climate where it never rains, all-wheel drive is kind of a waste of money in my opinion, but it's your choice. Either power plant is hooked up to a 6-speed automatic transmission, which offers a sport mode for more aggressive driving, or a manual shift mode. Unfortunately, there's no paddle shifters on the steering wheel, which I would expect for a car in this class, but you just don't get it. So if you want to shift for yourself, you're going to be using the knob here. We're going to be racking up a lot of miles to get the real-world fuel economy on this engine, rather than going by the EPA mileage that's rated on the window sticker. In fact, we have some figures to show you from last night. Amazingly, in 14,118 miles of driving, the secondary trip odometer has never been reset, so it gives us a good idea of real-world gas mileage. It shows here that the average speed was 30 miles per hour during that time, which means heavy city traffic. And that's 26.4 mpg in 14,118 miles of driving. Keep in mind that during this mileage, only 87 octane standard unleaded fuel was used. It didn't have any premium in it until I got a hold of it. And the owner's manual says for best performance, use super premium 91 octane, and that's what we'll be driving with from now on. going to take a short expressway trip. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, no traffic. Averaging just over 70 miles per hour. The air conditioning shut off. So this will give us the maximum fuel economy in the real world. Here's our short expressway trip, 29.6 miles, averaging 58 miles per hour. Yeah, I ran into some heavy traffic, what can I tell you? 37.6 mpg. I think that's the best we're going to see. There are two ways I could describe the cabin. Stark and bland, or simple and efficient. Take your choice. There's nothing overly fancy or luxurious here, though. Room for 2 adults in the back. A decent-sized glove box. Very simple climate controls. 3 knobs and a few buttons. Wish all German cars could be this simple. A control knob for navigation, radio, telephone, and media. With all the navigation and radio stuff coming up on this pop-up screen. It's a bit on the small side, but adequate. The only real complaint I had with this Audi is a complaint I have with many Audis in general, and actually many other German vehicles in general, and that's this, what I call the dirt shelf underneath the door, right here. It collects dirt, mud, sand. If you live in an area where it rains a lot, this entire area is going to be caked with mud, and when you get out, it's going to be right on your pants. There's really nothing you can do about it, except keep it clean, or step way out, or wear black pants. There must be some twisted German logic for doing this, but I've never been able to figure it out, and they've never been able to explain it. It's one of the quirks of owning a German car, I guess. It doesn't rain here much, so it's really not going to bother me that much. One area where German cars have always been superior is in the suspension systems. And the A3 is a perfect example, even though this is a compact car, also based on a lot of Volkswagen platform stuff. It's got one of the best rides I've ever had for a small vehicle, and we'll demonstrate this riding over some speed bumps. And here comes speed bump number 1. Now we're doing 25 miles per hour. Yeah, I heard it but didn't feel it. Oh, up to 30 miles per hour. Well, we heard a few, but overall it's pretty smooth. Okay, engine performance. I did a 0 to 60 time of 6.7 seconds using standard 87 octane unleaded, which is what the car came with. Then I filled it up with premium high octane 91 and still got 0 to 60 in 6.7 seconds, but then consider that I was carrying about an extra 150 pounds of fuel. So I would say on a partial tank, 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds would be in the ballpark, which is brisk enough. This vehicle's a little slow going off the line, but once the turbo kicks in, it's not an issue. Like so. Yeah, now we're moving. These brakes are flawless. There's not much feel on this power steering, which I'm told is electric, but it's so quick and responsive, I'm really not going to complain. It's definitely better than some of the other electric systems I've used. We're going to be taking this out on an extended mileage road test. Before we do, there's a few things you need to know. Number 1, Audi recommends 39 pounds of air in the tires, which is kind of high. Usually results in a very stiff ride. But as we saw by going over the speed bumps, the ride is fairly comfortable, which gives you a good idea of excellent German engineering. On the negative side, when you pump up that much air in the tires, you're going to get a lot of road noise transmitted into the cabin. That plus the air conditioning running full blast means that we're at highway speeds. You'll be hearing a lot of noise on this microphone. It is a slightly noisy car, yes, but I like the performance, so I'm not complaining. Roadhog. Goodbye. For those of you who subscribe, you've seen this before, but we have about 10,000 others who have not. The big giant toad that lives up on the hill here. It's the water they drink, you see. Okay, enough of that. Let's get the Audi running. Now that we're hitting high speeds, we're getting a lot of noise in the cabin. Climbing to 4,000 feet, and this turbo loves it. If you put the transmission in sport mode, it downshifts and upshifts so fast that the need for a manual transmission or a manual shift override is kind of pointless. There is no need to have a manual transmission in a car like this. Although it might make it more fun for some people. Simply put, this gearbox in sport mode is quicker than you and a bit smarter too. You shift manually, you won't be able to outsmart it. That's one of the reasons you don't see manual transmission in high-performance cars much anymore. This power steering is doing an excellent job of turning this car. Very fast steering ratio and very responsive. This is why you should never own a Harley Davidson. You can't go over 60 miles an hour without blowing up. You should have got a Ducati, dude. Okay, we just completed a 183-mile trip. Going on upgrades, taking tight corners, doing a lot of passing. This was not for fuel economy. This was to run the car the way it was made to be run. So in 183 miles, we got 27.3 mpg. Not bad, really. Even bright red cars have a tendency to get dirty. Yeah, the sunroof does have a use. Good thing I closed it. Nothing like a nice clean German car, especially with a bright red paint. Here we go again. an overheating warning light for the third time in 3 days, telling me to shut the engine down and pull over. Well, we're going to do that, but it's another false alarm. As you can see by the gauge, we're not running hot. Some of that quirky German electronic engineering. Okay, we pulled over, shut the engine off once again. Another false alarm, so we'll continue on. This reinforces the rule that I tell people every time I do a video on a German car. If you're going to drive a German car, make sure you're in warranty or buy the extended warranty, because weird problems like this can be very expensive to find and fix, whether they're false alarms or not. Little tip from me to you. Well, here we go again, 30 miles later. Computer says we're overheating. We have the warning light telling me to shut the engine off. But as you can see by the gauge, we are not overheating. Don't know what to tell you. Just turn it off, start it up, and continue driving. I have a lot more driving to do, so I hope this isn't going to be a constant problem here. I checked the cooling system. There's nothing wrong with it, so I'm just going to ignore this warning light and keep on driving. If the car blows up and me in it, it's been nice knowing you guys. Well, it's been a day later. We're not overheating and the vehicle hasn't blown up yet. Still runs like a top. I was given this Audi with unlimited mileage, so my plan was to crank on 1,800 miles in 7 days. Unfortunately, things got in the way, like having to eat and sleep, and dealing with crazy ex-girlfriends that still make my life miserable, so we had to cut it short to 5 days, and here's the mileage I got before I turned it in. So it's 926 miles, or 75 miles from point to pickup. Let's just make it an even 1,000, shall we? I got on the web to see what Audi A3 owners think about their vehicle. On the positive side, the majority absolutely love the car. The economy, the performance, and the styling. On the negative side, most thought that this car was not a very good value as far as what you get for the money. They do have a point. For example, the base car is $31,000, around $33,000 in all-wheel drive. About the same as the BMW 2 Series. The difference is the BMW has a more powerful 240 horsepower engine, a better 8-speed automatic, paddle shifters, and other features, starting at the same price. Also, a few weeks ago, I drove a Volkswagen Golf, loaded up with a lot of goodies, the same engine, pretty much the same performance. That was around $27,000, which I can figure is a lot less money. And for the price of a moderately equipped A3, let's say $35,000, you can always get the excellent Volkswagen GTI with its high performance turbo engine, all kinds of goodies that will match this vehicle and perhaps even go a little bit faster. Now, I'm not putting this car down. I love it. It's a nice car. I just think Audi should put a little bit more equipment in for the price they're charging. And keep in mind, the price on these can reach in the $40,000 brackets real quick. Personally, I think in this price bracket, they ought to just do away with the base engine and make the 220 horse engine standard. They might be doing this on the 2017 model year coming up. But we'll have to wait and see. If we push the economic debate aside and look at the car itself, this is an excellent machine, good looking, fast, good economy, just fun to drive, and I do hate getting rid of it. I also tested the Audi A4 and the exotic S4. We have those videos to watch if you want to get on the links coming up.